My husband's stepfather licks me better than my husband. Now I'm hooked. I can't get enough of him, and I don't know what to do. I don't know if this is going to destroy my marriage. I don't know if my husband will ever find out, but if he does, I don't even know what he'll do. The worst part? I didn't plan for any of this. It started when we lost everything. When we had to move back into his family house. That was where it all began, the lies, the late-night touches, the forbidden licks that still haunt my skin. Let me take you back to where it started. You deserve the full story. My name's Talia. I'm 29. Married for 5 years to Jordan, my college sweetheart, the man who once made my heart race with just a glance. We lived a pretty average life, but in today's world, average can collapse overnight. Jordan was a sales manager for a tech startup. One day, his company shut down without warning. Severance? Gone. Savings? Already stretched thin from medical bills after my miscarriage last year. We couldn't afford rent anymore. I suggested we move in with my sister, but Jordan, he was proud. Said he'd rather go back to his family's house, back to the place he swore he'd never return. I didn't understand why until I met his stepfather. We packed up what little we had and moved into a large but aging house on the edge of town. His mother, Sheila, was cold but polite. And then there was him, Robert. His stepfather. The man who would shatter my morals, my marriage, and my self-control. Slow build-up, soft background music. Robert was nothing like Jordan. Older, yes, late 50s, but confident, fit, and commanding. He had a quiet intensity. When he looked at you, you felt it. Noticed. Seen. At first, it was innocent. Passing glances. A gentle hand on my lower back as he moved behind me in the kitchen. But then, those glances lingered. His words dipped into teasing. Compliments wrapped in soft whispers. And I began to feel something I hadn't in months, desired. Jordan had grown distant. Unemployed and emasculated, he poured himself into video games and naps. I tried to seduce him, wear his favorite lingerie, but he barely noticed me. Robert, though. Robert noticed everything. Voice drops into a breathy, confessional tone. It was late. Everyone had gone to bed. I went downstairs for water and found Robert in the kitchen, shirtless, wearing only sweatpants. I shouldn't have stared, but I did. And he saw me. He leaned against the counter and said, "You shouldn't be walking around here like that." I looked down. My thin nightgown clung to my body in the light. Like what? I asked, my voice shaky. Like a woman who knows she's starving for something. I should have walked away. But I didn't. He walked up, touched my chin, and leaned in, not for a kiss, but to breathe against my neck. "Does he make you feel like a woman?" he whispered. And then, he dropped to his knees. His tongue made contact, and I forgot who I was. I forgot I was a wife. I forgot this was wrong. All I felt was pleasure, deep, forbidden, unrelenting pleasure. He licked me like he knew every part of me better than I did. Slow. Controlled. Devouring me. I gripped the counter, moaned into the dark, and when I came, it was like something inside me exploded. That was the first night. But it wouldn't be the last. Tone shifts to torn, emotional, conflicted. I couldn't sleep after that. My mind raced. What had I done? I tried to act normal the next day, but every time I looked at Robert, I remembered the way his tongue moved. And the worst part? I wanted it again. Jordan started noticing something. He'd ask if I was okay. If I was happy. I lied and kissed his forehead. I tried to sleep with him, to reset myself. But when he touched me, I felt nothing. Robert, though, every time he passed by me, I felt the ache between my legs grow. He would whisper, "Tonight," and I'd nod, despite everything in me screaming stop. It became a game. Late night whispers. Silent moans in the guest room. A secret world where I felt alive again. But secrets always demand a price. Voice becomes tense, suspenseful. Jordan became colder. He stopped asking questions. He watched more. Listened more. One night, I found him standing outside the guest room, ear to the door. My heart pounded. I asked, "What are you doing?" He said, "I thought I heard voices." I lied. Again. Said I was on the phone. But the guilt was heavy now. Robert didn't care. He said Jordan deserved it, for ignoring me, for being weak. I didn't know who I was anymore. I wasn't just cheating. I was hooked. Tone drops. Heavy breathing. Suspense builds. It happened after dinner. Jordan looked at me across the table and said, "You moan in your sleep, Talia. Did you know that?" I froze. He turned to Robert and said, "She says your name." Robert chuckled. Maybe I'm just a dream she can't forget. It was a joke. A deflection. But the silence that followed, it was thick. Later that night, Jordan didn't come to bed. The next morning, Robert was gone. No note. No goodbye. I walked into the kitchen, heart in my throat. Sheila handed me coffee and said coldly, "You should pack your things. Jordan wants you out." Just like that. Everything came crashing down. Broken. Reflective. Lonely. I never saw Robert again. Jordan never spoke another word to me. I stayed in a motel for weeks, haunted by my choices, my desires, the lies that turned to destruction. I think about that first night often. About how he made me feel like a woman again. How I betrayed someone who once loved me deeply. Was it worth it? No. But would I do it again? I don't know. I lost my husband. I lost my home. All because I followed pleasure over loyalty. If you're listening, and you think secrets stay buried, they don't. They rot. And they destroy. Be careful what you crave. Some pleasures leave you empty. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever crossed a line you couldn't uncross, you're not alone. But know this. Once it begins, nothing is ever the same again.